On this episode of AI and AV, AI security and how to leverage AI in meeting spaces. All that and more. Next on AI in AV. This is AI in AV, Episode 2, Digital Debt. We are taking a gander once again at the world of AI and AV. I guess we will call this part 2. With us, just like last time, is Mehryn Corrigan. Mehryn is from Microsoft. Welcome, ma'am.
Thank you. Glad to be here and glad to be back. It was a fun conversation last time. We had a lot to talk about. So
we did, and we at the end of it, we said we ain't done yet, so we're going to do more of these. So I'm glad to have you back. Thank you, ma'am. Tomer Mann is from 22 Miles. Welcome, sir.
Hello, thank you. Thanks for having me again. Excited to see what more I can come out of my mind for you guys in this new space.
I'm interested as well, Tomer, and I'm just saying that because I know you.
I'm very interested too.
And last but not least, a young man I got to spend a few days with in Denver at CEDIA and CI Expo, Alex Capecelatro from Josh.AI. Welcome, sir.
Thanks. Great to be back.
Alex, we'll start with you on this. I mentioned the fact that you and I hung out at actually, I don't think I saw you, but you and I were both at CEDIA and CI Expo in Denver. If you're not familiar with either show, CEDIA is the residential version of Invocom, right, is the best way to put that. Lots of home technology. Josh.AI was there, certainly in force. You also keynoted and kind of anchored a panel and a discussion, pretty lengthy discussion, right before the show about AI. One of the things I want to get into this time around is how AI has the potential, or maybe it already is, transforming users generically, right? And we'll start with residential and how it transformed user experience in the home, but we'll certainly get into the corporate side. But from your standpoint, how is it transforming how users, interact with and experience technology?
It's a great question, and there are so many different angles I'm trying to think of, where to start from this. And I'm just going to ramble. I'll try to keep it somewhat short, but I'm curious what the other panelists might want to chime in with as well. So for me, the big thing is we've had AI, and we talked about this last time. We've had AI for a long time, really since the 50s. This is a different AI today. This is not grandpa's artificial intelligence. The AI we have today is really colloquially being termed generative AI. It's really the first time that we're seeing systems making new recommendations, coming up with new information, new photos, new videos, new text. And so when you think about where that's leading, there are a few different ways that I see that really impacting not just the end user, but also the installer, the person setting up the systems. The first of which is voice control has been it kind of grew and then it plateaued a little bit. Now I think we're going to see another really big growth spurt in the home because you're not limited to simply asking for a timer or asking for, weather information. You can ask for really interesting questions, and the system's going to figure it out. So one of the examples that I just want to share with the group, because for me, it is sort of the epitome of how interesting AI is getting. So I want to share an example of what you can do with really any of the GPT technologies, but in this case, this is specifically GPT-4 from OpenAI. And the reason I want to give this example is not that it's exactly what someone might say to their home, but to show that if you don't even know the exact question to ask, you can still get an interesting answer. So let me just read this to you. A prompt that someone gave was, Michael is at that really famous museum in France looking at its most famous painting. However, the artist who made this painting just makes Michael think of his favorite cartoon character from his childhood. What was the country of origin of the thing that the cartoon character usually holds in his hand? That is pretty abstract. There's a lot of reasoning and connections that the AI has to figure out. The response to this, which as we all know comes within about a second or so, it's very fast, was Michael is likely at the Louvre Museum in France. So that really famous museum, it's assuming is the Louvre, looking at the famous painting, the Mona Lisa. So it knows that the Mona Lisa is the most famous painting there, which is all making sense to me, which was painted by Leonardo da Vinci. If the artist makes him think of a favorite cartoon character from his childhood, he might be thinking of the character Leonardo from Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. In the show, Leonardo usually holds a pair of katana, which are traditionally Japanese swords. So the country of origin of the thing the cartoon character usually holds in his hand is Japan. The reason I love this example is because the speed with which it can do logic and reasoning, you can start to think about how this applies in your everyday life. You forgot the exact name of that thing or that person or that movie or that song, but you want to still get the right thing to happen. The systems are able to do some pretty abstract reasoning. And the ways that this can be applied, I think we're just at the very early stages of uncovering the potential.
All right, just for the record, you had me until Da Vinci, because at that point, now I should have caught on to Leonardo. I would have gone to pizza is what's in his hand, not the katanas. Really quickly, Alex, you said something there a second ago that caught me by surprise. You said that this is not your grandpa's AI because we've had AI since the 50s. Briefly explain that to me, because that's not how far back I would have given it.
Yeah, so let me just quickly get an exact date, but the term artificial intelligence.
You're going to go back to Turing, aren't you?
No, just the term. So John McCarthy is the one who founded the term, 1952, author Samuel termed AI. And then in 1955, it was John McCarthy who basically kind of publicized and popularized the term. And at the time, the idea of AI was really any system using a computer in some form to simulate a human's way of thinking. And so
Okay.
we've had AI for a while, but just to give a very quick sort of history lesson, AI is the overarching term that everything else we talk about applies to. But the thing that allowed AI to really get interesting in the modern world was then machine learning. And machine learning is basically a subset of AI that
Okay.
allows the system to use data to, do these complex tasks. But machine learning is still an overarching category of a more granular topic called deep learning. And deep learning is the thing that enables all of the stuff we're talking about. And so I just want to kind of get at, Grandpa's AI might have been rule-based logic and reasoning from computers. Today's AI is really more about deep learning and artificial neurons.
Mehryn, you and actually all three of you guys are manufacturers, and certainly let Alex jump in on this as well. Microsoft has made a lot of noise. I'm going to say in the last 9 months. You could correct me there, but it feels like 9 months since ChatGPT came to the forefront and basically exploded come the first part of 23. From a user experience, and this is more in the corporate and commercial area, not just from Microsoft's standpoint, certainly comment on that, but from your standpoint as well as a technologist, how are you seeing, the user experience changing with AI?
It's interesting because it's like it's so many things converging at the same exact time. It's not only the fact that AI and we've got this deep learning capability, but I think I'm so deeply embedded in work technology. There's been so much that's changed in how we work in the last couple of years, as well as the amount of interaction that we have with technology. So when you think about the digitization of basically everything has become digital over the last several years. Think about all the meetings that we do. We do 5 times the number of meetings than we used to. It's just digital overwhelmingness, I would say, and the inability for us to really process that and be productive. So it's a need, I would say, that comes at the same time as a really amazing technology that sort of meets that need. So it's two really big convergences of a problem and a solver coming at the same time. And I think AI is allowing us the opportunity to deal with that, what we're calling it digital debt. Digital debt is costing us the ability to be more creative and happy in our jobs. At times costing us innovation. We're spending time, reading emails instead of creating. I think we talked about that the last time. So we're looking for a new way to interact. Like I think Alex touched on it. There's so much more data available there, but how often do we sort of struggle? Like I know I've got a file somewhere in my email. Let me look. I know it was maybe in September. I'm going to search for it. How nice would it be if it just pops up when I start talking about that particular topic with that particular person? That is a new capability that is possible today. And these are all things that AI has made possible. And I think it's just the beginning. It's touching so many different areas. The way we're looking at it is it's more of a general purpose tool that literally every single industry is touching every single day. And we're looking at it as not like a machine that's just going to do everything for us. It's more of a assistant. It's Copilot is what we're calling it. So we've got at Microsoft Security Copilot, Microsoft Sales Copilot. Like you've got a copilot in everything that you do. And it's a nice way to think about it because it's not taking over for the human. It's just assisting you in the work that you're doing every day, making you more creative, more productive. And it's up leveling you as a person to be able to accomplish your job in a more meaningful way, which I think is what everybody wants at the end of the day.
Tomer, one of the things about 22 miles and the space that you guys are in, you've got inherently a creative need, right? When you start talking about digital signage and when you look at it from a user standpoint, and this can be the people that are consuming the content, or it's the people that are creating it. How are you seeing, large language models and generative AI, impacting the user experience?
It's definitely, even for us, changing fast. Every day we're finding out other features that we didn't even think about that our partners are be like, oh, can we use it in this retail environment? Yeah. And then even we're talking to Brightsign right now, right? And they're asking us to connect with their other peripherals and creating this bundle for all of their big retail clients that they have 50,000 devices out in the marketplace for, and then they want to talk about what products they have by just talking, and then we can do AI training to just do the rest for you. It's new and fresh for us. So that's why when I started, before we even started recording, I'm like, hopefully I can come up with some good stuff because it's so new for me. I just learned something new from everything Alex said, and that was intriguing. And I was like, wow, I want that excerpt that he just read. That was awesome. But we're even taking it to the next step because we're learning ourselves of everything we can use with OpenAI, and we're creating our own AI support system now. We're all of the RFPs that we've submitted to in the past, all the security questionnaires we've answered and had to re-answer over and over again. We took all that data and we're compiling that and doing our own in-house AI training capability to be able to create our own AI support experience. Also allow us to do our own RFPs without ever having to do questions again. All of that will already be regurgitated from every other document we've put together in the past. And then on top of that, we've realized that a lot of these organizations, including the retail environment, don't want or don't trust technically the ChatGPT of the world, or from a security, right? Like they don't want their private data being put into a public domain. So we're now creating our own in-house AI training server. So it could be more of an enterprise level experience that then is more comfortable to use, more secure, but then also in-house learning within their server database environment. So we're changing things on a daily basis based on what we're finding, the trends, the feedback, and even learning from our peers. And our team is savvy and agile enough to just learn from mistakes or learn from things that might not make sense in 6 months, and they're moving fast. And the whole AI experience is just blowing up quickly, and we're excited about it. So there's new innovation from content on the internal side for us, and then everything that we're able to then push out to the marketplace, and we're doing it quickly.
Mehryn, Tomer actually has teed up one of our other topics rather nicely, so we're going to go there, and that's the realm of security, right? You've got, let's not be coy here, OpenAI and ChatGPT specifically is open to the public, right? Whatever you type in there, somebody else can find. Now, I am not smart enough to find what Mehryn types in, but somebody is, right? So let's talk for a second about security of large language models. Let's talk about the pros and cons of doing something like a public, let's call it, OpenAI or whatever, or versus a private large language model where you've got it on site or you're using somebody's cloud server to do it. But overall, Mehryn, when we talk about the security of AI generically, but really, deep learning or large language models, what are we talking about here?
Yeah, so I think that's the first and foremost thing you need to talk about before you even, get into the world of AI. You really need to do some hard look at data governance. AI is leveraging your data as well as other sets of data. Do you want all of your data exposed to everybody in the globe? No, most likely not. As a company, that's not good. So working with AI tools that are protected and where your data is your data, and even within your own company, you might not necessarily want, somebody on the sales floor to have access to the CEO's transcript from their meeting. So protecting data circles and really doing the work internally to do that data governance conversation, who can see what, when, why, how, what topics and folders are accessible, which are not. Which meetings can be recorded and which meetings cannot. Like, those are all really important conversations that really need to be happening now. Another really interesting thing is, you'll start to see in Teams meetings, if you go to share a document that is protected, the people that are in the meeting will just see black. They won't actually see the document because it's protected. These are all, I think, really amazing benefits to the AI conversation that are happening right now. It's a really big propeller for people having this security conversation, and you can't do Microsoft Copilot with having all of these governance conversations first. So we've done a lot of work over the last 4, 5, 6 months ourselves, focusing on those conversations, preparing everybody for the introduction of Copilot. But what's interesting is in the news, you'll see every company across the globe is talking about whose data is what. If I'm doing a meeting, does the platform own my data? Do they not? We've been very clear about who owns the data. It is the owner of the license that owns their own data. And I think every single T&C that you look at, it's going to be important to look at who owns that data and how you interact with that particular tool. I myself have been doing a closer look at, you click the button, yes, accept. You got to pause, especially if it's monitoring and tracking all of the things that you're doing within that platform and then using it for something else later on. It's a really important conversation. So
yeah, I just want to add really quick. It's also a very fast moving space. So just 2 weeks ago, OpenAI introduced their enterprise ChatGPT. I wanted to make sure I got it right. So I quickly just pulled up exactly how they describe it. Get enterprise grade security and privacy and the most powerful version of ChatGPT yet. They're basically talking about, we understand that security and privacy are important. Now, do you trust them is sort of the bigger question. But if you do trust them, they're claiming this is the way to have your data utilizing, ChatGPT in a safe way.
Right.
And this is going to be different 2 weeks from now. It's changing so quickly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
One thing I'll just point out, we just introduced Bing Chat, where you can use basically ChatGPT embedded. So if you go into the search bar and go start typing something, if you go into the chat section, you can start interacting with the tool. Several months ago, that was sort of open and anybody could see it. Now I'm on the secure private version. It's got a little lock signal next to it that lets me know that I am interacting in my own corporate protected space. Anytime I put in there, I get a little flag that says, hey, this is a protected space. So that is an important thing to look for too. You don't want to just be using an open ChatGPT if it's really confidential information. Check yourself before you wreck yourself would be the phrase there.
Well, and I don't know if any of you watch Black Mirror or have watched it in the past. If you haven't, do not watch the very first episode that involves the Prime Minister, but watch the most recent season, because the TNC is 100% in that, right? And you've got, Mehryn, you're right. We have all been guilty for years of just clicking and going because I need or I want the piece of software, right? Absolutely. Tomer, let's talk about this for a second. You're the one that brought up, right, security. Whether it's you guys or whether it's your customers, and each of those, they all have proprietary content. They have copywritten material, right? Whether it's the content that they've created or it's content that they're capturing for their clients. How are you guys going about, making sure that as you're leveraging AI for these systems, that your stuff is secure?
My project manager just told me yesterday that one of the federal agencies we're working with, and we're still in the project management stage of building their content. They're giving us their data. We're going through design approval processes with them. So we've been using the read.ai and the Copilot. We're playing with both. And so we've been enjoying the transcripts that are coming out of that. And and they said we're not allowed to use that, but we are allowed to record video, but they don't trust the transcripts because it is a public domain, and they don't want their data on screen or anything to be published within that. But yet the video recording, they trust us to only share with them and us internally. And so it's interesting. It's kind of backwards a little bit. But again, it's a federal agency, and they do things backwards. I'm not saying which one because it's a client and I don't want them to be mad at me. But yeah, bureaucracy at its best. Yeah, I think people are still very hesitant. They don't know what they don't know, and I think it's so new. They need more Alexes of the world to kind of explain this stuff to them, with a nursery rhyme scenario. And so I think we've got a long ways to go to prove people out. And we've already had some backlash. And that's why my team is developing this in-house AI training server. So we could go to market a little bit faster with people that are not fully comfortable yet with the public access of ChatGPT or the open AI. So we're not trying to stop the innovation, and we're not trying to stop the rollout that we're doing. And we're not Microsoft, right? Everyone trusts Microsoft in some capacity. 22 miles is a very small minnow. So we're trying to really make a dent in the space. And so that's why we're going to be going both ways, right? We're going to be leveraging as much as we can out of ChatGPT from an open perspective, but then also building something in-house that is able to be fundamentally as strong with leveraging some of the open AI, but within a closed database environment, and then selling that off to people so they could have either option available. But artificial intelligence is definitely our focus, and it's definitely where we see everything heading to simplify everyone's world, as we were referencing. And I really like that digital debt perspective as well. I think we're all in the whole of all of our digital assets and going through that. So I think this is definitely the way to make things more seamless for users of any type.
Alex, really quickly, I'm not going to ask you about, you can talk about Josh.AI, but really, as you're talking with other manufacturers and other technology companies, how are you guys, or how are you advising other folks, or how are you, leading Josh.AI when it comes to making sure that y'all's, secure your systems and your information is secure while still leveraging this technology?
It's funny. It's such a not new problem for us that we don't really think about it a lot. I mean, just to give you a quick example, we've run all of our natural language processing for years on our local servers. But when you ask about weather information, we go to a weather API. When you ask to stream music or video content, we go out to different, cloud-based APIs. If you want the stock price, same thing. And so we've always had this approach that we keep all the real information on the local servers. We then go up to our sort of secure cloud. We anonymize the packet of information that needs to go out to a third party. And then when we bring that back, there's very little that third party can do. In this case, it's not very different. There are ways that we're using, Meta's open source Llama. There are ways that we're playing around with ChatGPT and Claude and different systems. We don't believe there's any aspect of a third party being able to utilize and manipulate data that we're passing to them, but it's because we've always taken this approach. Other companies, though, if you feed all of your information to one system, you want to think about what is that system? What are they using it for? What are their policies? And I would say they're not generally as bad as your gut instinct might be, but you just want to look that up. You want to know, where is this going? And that's true for everything. It's true for companies who did Facebook Connect years ago and didn't realize that they were giving Facebook data that they might not have thought about, or people who run Google ads and analytics in their website and might not realize that Google is getting access to information. It's really just the way the internet is built. To me, it's not a new problem, but it's just another reason to be aware of what you're doing.
As we wrap up here, guys, and we got like 5 minutes here because, again, we talked about last time we could spend hours on this. I'm going to ask generically, and y'all can fight over who wants to answer first. If we're taking this private, this means, right, it's more secure, certainly. In my head, that inherently means it's smaller or less capable. If it is a private large language model, is a private AI dumber? Is it less capable?
I guess I'll step in first. I know that these guys probably have an opinion. I'd say no, it's definitely not dumber. It's probably smarter and more capable as specific to you and your own use case. So it all depends on what you're feeding it. If you're not feeding it any data or anything, it's not going to have anything to analyze or build off of. But if you go into, let's say, a legal scenario and you load in all those cases and anything specific with regards to history, as well as maybe client info, et cetera, that would be very specific to your needs and give you back what would be more articulate than I'd say anything that you'd find publicly. That's one of the benefits of having your own instance, let's say, of something called like Microsoft Copilot, is it's all your data and it's specific to what you need. And that's how you can leverage it as a competitive advantage in market, by basically skilling up your organization on how to use that tool to its greatest advantage versus your competitor who might be also using Copilot, but might not be trained or feeding it the data in the same way that you would.
I like that. As an old computer term, garbage in, garbage out. So if you don't feed it.
Mehryn basically said everything I was about to say, but so she's spot on. And that's why I keep saying AI training, right? Because we have to train the system, and we're someone used coined the term a walled garden the other day, right? So you're still a lot of flowers, right? A lot of plant, but it's we're training it on a specific database, but the generative AI can respond in any way within that database. So it's really intelligent. It's really fast, and it's conversational, interactive around what you're training it to have the flexibility to respond to you at, right? So it's not creating those hallucinations. It's not going out, which could end up being dumber, right? Because then it could give you bad cases that don't exist, right? It can just make things up. Like I think, I don't know if I referenced this in the last podcast, but I think an Australian minister or something sued ChatGPT because it said that his bio, when someone looked him up, said he was arrested for like sexual harassment or something like that, and he's suing ChatGPT for that fake wrong data that was made up out of nowhere. So training and confining the ChatGPT into a specific set of databases will only make it more intelligent in its responses and how it's generating those responses.
Yeah, so I agree with what everyone's saying. I just want to add on. Years ago, when we were starting to build out AI models for doing automatic speech recognition and natural language processing and all sorts of things, the problem was not just that we didn't have the algorithms we have today, or not just that we didn't have the hardware and the GPUs that we have today. The problem was that the training data was not readily available. And so when you think about what really enabled something like ChatGPT to take off, ChatGPT was allegedly, and I believe this is true, but allegedly built on a parameter count of over 1 billion parameters. And then what made GPT-4 even better was it took it up to like 1 trillion parameters. It was a huge parameter count. Well, if you're building a private GPT type engine, a large language model with an open source system, Meta's Llama 2 is probably the best out there, at least from what I've seen. And I believe Microsoft is a partner in this as well. Llama 2 is trained on something like, I think it's 70 or 80 billion parameters. And so it's not necessarily going to do what GPT-4 does, but it gives someone a base level, a base model of a really high parameter count, basically all the world's information, crawling the websites, Wikipedia. That's what allows it to know, who's the person that was playing third base in the World Series in 1976 or whatever. That information's all out there. And so you're starting off with the model that's already incredibly, incredibly brilliant. And then you're fine tuning. Then you're adding your own personal information. That's where, to me, it's not that the model is dumber, but more specific. It's actually really smart and really specific. But the last thing I want to mention is it's not all about parameter count. It's not just about having a lot of generic data. What we're doing at Josh.AI is a multimodal approach where we basically say, when a query comes in, it's not always the right thing to send it to a GPT model. So for example, these large language models are not necessarily great at math. We have really good math models. They're also not good at real-time data. They don't know the weather in Aspen, Colorado right now. They don't know the Netflix ID if I want to get Breaking Bad on the TV in the living room. And so in a normal example, what I mean is when someone says, what time is it? we don't go to AI to give you the time. We have a clock in the computer. We give you the time. If someone says, watch Breaking Bad, we figure out the Breaking Bad Netflix ID and we turn on the TV and we route everything and it does that. But if someone says, tell me about the show Breaking Bad and why was it created and who are the main characters? Well, in that case, GPT is going to be wonderful. And so this approach, it's a multimodal approach. If you need different algorithms to solve different problems, that's the way that these systems get really smart. And so I think we need to remember AI, and in this case, generative AI and something like a ChatGPT, that needs to just be one piece of what you're doing if you want to build the smartest possible system.
That'll be a good place to stop us. Mehryn, very good. Nice to see you again. Mehryn Corrigan, of course, from our friends at Microsoft. How can people connect with you?
Best probably on LinkedIn. I think I mentioned it last time. I've got every Friday, 9 a.m. Eastern, selling Microsoft Teams rooms. I'm specific to Microsoft Teams, but I would say definitely keep an eye on Microsoft Copilot and Microsoft Teams Premium. Those are the two applications that I work with most closely when it comes to the world of meetings and how to embed AI into those using hardware. So lots of really fun and exciting announcements coming up. The biggest one we have is around Microsoft Ignite, which you can sign up for today. It is actually registration now available as of last week. So make sure you go ahead and check that out.
All right, very good. Tomer Mann from 22 Miles. How do people connect with you, sir?
22miles.com or my LinkedIn. But since we last spoke, we've actually created our own new AI landing page in our website. So now there's a whole new page devoted to our AI assistant capabilities, and we keep enhancing it. So, like I said, we're all in. So feel free, 22miles.com.
All right, very good. And of course, Alex Capecelatro from Josh.AI. How can people connect with you, sir?
Any of the channels are great. LinkedIn, Instagram. I don't really use Twitter or X or whatever it's called anymore, but you can try me there. Or just Alex at Josh.AI.
Alrighty. I think technically legally, otherwise, Musk will find me. We have to refer to it as X. For me, for Tim Albright, don't find me on X or Twitter. But go by the website, AVNation.tv. That's AVNation.tv. You'll find this program and a host of others, including the previous version of that, where I think we tackled 2 other questions. We'll do this again, kids. So go by the website, AVNation.tv. It's AVNation.tv. Thanks so much for listening. That is all the time we have for this AVNation special.
The network for the AV industry.
What are you listening to?
This
is AV.
This
is AVNation.
This is AVNation.